Alright, Diablo 4 players, let's talk about it. What to do if you're bored in Diablo 4. I see this once in a while in my comment section where people are like, dude, how are you still playing this game? I got burnt out. You know, obviously it's going to take some people a little bit longer to reach that sort of goal that they have, or maybe they want to try other builds. But this video is going to kind of address the situation for a lot of people that I feel like exists in a lot of different Diablo communities, which is essentially you've played the game, you got your Spiritborn, maybe you cleared out a pit 150, or you just kind of got burnt out, you're like Paragon 200 plus, and you really feel like that there isn't too much to do in the game anymore. So this video is going to kind of address that and give you guys some solutions while still staying in Diablo 4. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So the first point that I want to bring up is you do not have to play the meta. Most people, including myself, we played the Spiritborn, we played the Quill build, we go up relatively high in the pit, and then we kind of get burnt out with the game. And I totally understand that. If you're doing the same thing again and again, you're not getting other upgrades, it's going to feel like you're kind of pounding your head into a wall. You're not really progressing. What's the point of playing? And to get more life cycle out of a game, you can actually try different things. Don't feel like you have to check this and play the top tier build. There are so many different builds for every single class that you may not have actually experienced, and don't feel like again that you have to play the same thing that you played the last season. I'm going to give you guys a couple of different examples, and I will also link some of these down below in case you guys want to try them. So one thing that some people may have some interest in, and again I'll link a lot of these things down below, is checking out maybe the Kel level. Maybe you want to get that special cosmetic. Now this thing does take quite a long time, but if you want to access certain forms of content from video games that are kind of secrets or Easter eggs, these things do take time. If you guys want to unlock the cosmetic for the Kel level from the expansion, well, there is a way to do this. I'm just going to warn you guys, this thing takes a really long time, and it's not going to give your character any power, but it is something fun to do in the game that some people may want to achieve. It's kind of like just achievements. Another thing that I want to go ahead and mention is to try out other builds. This is some of the things that I really like to do in Diablo just in general. It doesn't have to apply to just Diablo 4, but even in Diablo 3, there was a lot of times where I would go back and try out things that no one has actually built. For example, there's an item called Mycon's Ball of Hate, which was for basically a lightning build, and you could eventually make a chain lightning build, which the game was probably never intended to make chain lightning, but if you are creative enough, you can come up with ideas on builds that, again, were not really intended to exist in the game, and some of these may not be an S tier build, okay? I'm just warning you guys as a heads up, the meta is the way it is because, well, it's pretty much the best, but you may discover something really cool, and maybe you can actually make a build that is still capable of doing pretty much most of the content, while also giving you the freedom of trying something brand new. So some of the things that I think are really cool to maybe consider over here is things that, again, the game was probably not intended to do. Now this one, just as a heads up, is just showing you guys the creative side of some of the theory crafting that goes on with Diablo and testing some really weird things out. This was an item that did get nerfed. So this item was called Sky Hunter, and what it would do, it was actually pretty broken on the rogue because thorns damage could not crit, and you normally would never make thorns on a rogue, but I ended up making a video guide for it, and it was really cool. Now again, this item has been nerfed, but I'm just trying to talk about some of the crazier things that exist. So this item guarantees a critical strike. Again, you're not supposed to be able to crit with thorns, but this item technically allowed you to bypass it. So I'm trying to give you guys that creative idea to potentially try something else out that is weird. There's also another really weird thing, and it's funny that I said don't play this build because it was bait. They heavily buffed this item called the Estador's Overflowing Cameo to do a really huge amount of more damage than it used to deal. Now I ended up trying this out, and I tried getting this to be as strong as I possibly could. You can see this is, I believe, in season 2, back when you had the vampiric powers. Really cool season, but they buffed up this lightning nova build, and you could still try to build it. Again, it's not going to be the S tier build, but it will be something brand new because lightning nova is not a skill that you can just equip. What it does is you have to pick up crackling energy, and then there's a chance to spawn in this nova that can deal damage. Now it is an RNG chance for it to spawn in, but that's the part of, just some off meta builds. But if you are not in that creative side, you're like, I don't know how to start some crazier builds, we'll talk a little bit about some of the other things in season 6, but I actually already have a bunch of build guides that were from the PTR. You might have to update these slightly, but for the most part, the numbers may change, but the slots in terms of the gear and stuff is pretty much the same if you just watch the video. But this was a really cool build, actually. This was for a rogue build called Dance of Knives. Now, if you haven't tried it, maybe you never played rogue, or this is your first time playing the game, this is a really fun build. If you ever wanted that fantasy of a ranged whirlwind playstyle, this can definitely be for you. Again, I will link all of these videos that I'm talking about down below, just to give you guys some creative ideas potentially as well. Now, this was originally one of the top tier builds for Season 6. This got nerfed before it ever came out. How good is this build? I haven't seen anyone actually really talk about this after the nerfs. I'm guessing it doesn't do the same amount of damage, because this literally one-shot anything in the game. They did nerf it, but how bad is the nerf? Again, I haven't seen anyone talk about it, but how it worked was that your thorns would apply like every few seconds in an AoE, and well, it just did crazy amounts of damage. It was a new key passive that the Barbarian got, and it was out of control. And again, if you want some sort of playstyle of a spin to win, this one is kind of cool though, because they have been giving Barbarians some like buffs on Whirlwind, but Whirlwind still doesn't actually deal the damage here. This is all thorns. It has the ability to group up the enemies and suck people in, so it's kind of cool. It does allow like a vacuum playstyle, and it's super satisfying, so check that one out as well. Again, most of these may not be updated in terms of the numbers here, but as far as the gear goes, it's going to be the same. This one was a really cool build too. This was a death trap rogue build, so you basically, your whole playstyle would be basically spamming your ultimate again and again. You would group up the enemies, and then I also mixed in twisting blades, because there is a damage multiplier on that, and you needed to activate a core skill in order to spend all your resource, then you'd bounce it back up. Really cool and unique way to play. Again, this one would be something for some players that don't mind spamming the buttons, because your hands are going to get tired definitely by playing this build if you're not used to it. Yeah, this playstyle is a little bit different, but again, it does offer a really cool like OG playstyle. If you ever played back in Season 0, this was a really good build where you can spam on the death trap. And what they have done is they nerfed the twisting blades cooldown reduction that it used to generate when it would hit enemies, but that has not really mattered now, because there's a lot of other things that you can get. But for the most part, this is a really interesting build, and it's kind of a throwback if you maybe played Season 0 and enjoyed the game. It's kind of like that. And then this build over here is a Soul Rift Necromancer. This is actually a very interesting build. If you've ever played Path of Exile, it's kind of like a Righteous Fire build where you have this AoE shadow damage that applies over time, and depending on how high that you go in the pit, keep in mind this gameplay here was from the PTR. I didn't have like super min-max gear, but it was a really cool idea in terms of being able to kind of have a walking simulator build. As you start going higher up, don't expect to do like the highest pit clears. However, one thing that is really cool with this is it does offer a unique playstyle where if you do get enough damage, you can kind of walk and everything kind of melts. Like especially if you wanted that fantasy of like kind of pseudo feeling powerful, maybe you can do open world content with this and you can just walk and one-shot everything. But again, don't expect to do pit pushing with this. Just kind of a more unique playstyle. And actually, this is one of my favorite builds that I actually built for the Season 6 on the PTR, was this Stone Burst Druid. Now, the reason why I really liked this is it hit so hard. Like, it was hitting for trillions of damage. Keep in mind, again, these numbers may change, but in terms of the playstyle, I liked it because you just got to just go boom, and it would just pop the screen. Like, you would genuinely pop pretty much most of the screen. Like, you can see that like the screen is constantly just being popped over here. Massive amounts of damage. So if you're interested in going you know, crazy with AoE, you can see I was like showing off some of the numbers. Some of the numbers was crazy. Like I think this is someone else, like you can see like the damage over there. It was wild. But going into other things that you can do in the game that aren't something that I have gameplay of that you may actually want to try to build. So looking at the Spiritborn, because a lot of people are playing Spiritborn this season, right? You have this unique called the Ring of the Writhing Moon, which has it so Pestilent Swarm spawns around you that deals some sort of poison damage, and then the Pestilent Swarms orbit around you. So you can have kind of like a Blessed Hammer build if you've played Diablo 2. Think of it kind of like that. And I actually do have this on my to-do list for a build guide, so eventually we'll build one. But hey, if you're feeling a little bit bored, try to build that. Maybe you can figure out something really cool. Another thing that I thought was interesting that the Spiritborn had was called the Scorn of the Earth. So what this does is it makes your evade soar, and obviously you can get a lot of cooldown reduction on your evade. If you try to build maybe the Eagle build, you can now try to build a build all around evading, but it is now going to be soar. And soar is the skill that lets you jump up in the air and then you slam down. It's what I believe it's a blue skill over here. Okay, yeah, it's this one where you fly into the air and then you come down. So you can make a build potentially around just jumping up and down. You make like a hopping build. Again, some of these would be hilarious to play. I always felt like this item was really cool, Jacinth Shell. It makes it so you have insane amounts of cooldown reduction, but it drains your HP. So you can maybe combo that in there so you have extra cooldown reduction for Soar, and then on top of that, it's going to deal increased damage. Now, again, these aren't going to be like uber S tier builds. 50x damage is pretty much memes. I don't know why they had it. It should have been like 500x because you have so many other obscure things that have way crazier multipliers. But hey, Spiritborn is pretty OP anyways. You can maybe combo it with all of like the block resolve, and you could maybe probably make it deal crazy amounts of damage. At that point, you have like a pretty solid build. But those are some other things to consider. Other builds that I actually was thinking about actually making, and again, this is my suggestion. You guys try out some of these, and if you have built them, let me know how good they are because I haven't tried out some of these myself. But if you go to like the Ariat bearing pants over here, this is actually really cool. So the ancients that you summon are empowered. So these ancients that you summon with a barbarian like the ultimate, you are able to actually get these other bonuses, and that's kind of cool. Now keep in mind the ancients don't actually last that long, but when you combine it with a bunch of cooldown reduction, you can maybe make a pet barbarian build. This is something that I really wanted to do. If you've ever played Diablo 3, if you've ever used it, I believe it's the Immortal King set, it'd be really cool to kind of have this like fantasy of like you're a barbarian but you just rely on your summons. Kind of a cool thing to go ahead and try out. Maybe you can even combine like the wolves from the druid Runeword, and you can have like an army wolf barbarian build. Again, it's probably not going to be the top tier pushing build, and I really want to stress that because sometimes when I talk about like off meta like fun stuff, people are like, how much does this clear in the pit? Can this do pit 150? And I'm just like, no, it can't. Like, it's not going to be anywhere near that. But, like, you'd probably need a lot of cooldown reduction for this. You'd probably get it in your amulet as well. But, like, just cool ideas like this. Again, this one I probably don't expect to do that much. But you can actually throw on things like Flicker Step. Like, there are ways to increase the damage. I mean, you can get ultimate damage. Let's say we get a GA on the ultimate triple crit. I mean, 800 ultimate damage with this also giving them bonus, like, powers and damage. And I think that these actually do work with some of the other aspects that you do have. Normally aspects don't work on like pets. However, I want to say this one, I remember the whirlwind dust devil things were working with it at some point, but I haven't tested it recently. But again, this could be something to consider as well. And you could go back to trying Asadoras. I haven't tried this in several seasons. Maybe this thing is finally good. I genuinely don't know. But with all the things getting introduced in the game, maybe that this could actually deal some cool damage, and you can make a Lightning Nova sorceress. But there are so many other crazier ideas. Flesh Renderer actually did see some play. It was actually a really good build. At one point they nerfed it. It's a really cool build. I believe I have it uploaded still as like season 5. And then there's also like Crone Staff. There's a lot of other things to consider. So if you're getting bored of the game, stop looking at the meta. Go play some like more obscure, like weird things in the game, and I promise you, you will have a blast trying out some stuff. And it's not necessarily about the end result. Sometimes it's a lot of fun in terms of the journey. Remember, this is like season 0, so everything was getting one-shotted here with Thorns, which was really, really interesting because, again, Thorns was never meant to crit, so that's why you were getting crazier numbers on this, which, well, nowadays, like, hitting for, I don't know how much it's hitting for, but, like, this was a really cool build. Again, don't build the Thorns Rogue, it's nerfed, but I'm just trying to give you guys that idea and mindset of, like, try out other things in the game, as you may discover some more fun things. Anyways, that's how I would personally have a lot more fun in Diablo 4, is trying out other builds that I haven't tried out before, or trying out things that, well, a lot of people signed out as bad. Anyways, that's gonna wrap up the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn the bell if you'd like to see more content, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out. And also check the pin, I'll link a bunch of the videos so you guys can have at least somewhat of a guide if you want to try them.